scientists in the community have come to the realization that every single blaster is a reshell of a jolt. This is not specifically a jolt, this is a rebel version of it, but you get the idea. However, I drive to understand how everything could be a jolt reshell when the jolt hasn't existed forever. In fact, the jolt itself is a relatively new blaster, and yet we have jolt reshells dating backwards in time before the jolt was even officially released. Now, we do know that Hasbro does take, anywhere from 5 to 3 years to come up with a blaster design and actually put it into production, whether it's designing the blaster and then actually just producing it, or designing the blaster and shelving it until a later time when things be a little more feasible for them to produce it. But it does take a little bit of time. It's usually 3 to 2 years, but it could be shorter than that. So it is possible that the jolt could be in blasters before its time, things like the long shot and whatnot, but what about way before any of that? Well, I've done a little bit of research myself, and I've come to the conclusion that possibly, I know this is a crazy theory in a world of crazy jolt-related theories, that maybe the jolt is a reshell of something else. And I know, that's a dangerous precedent to set, but bear with me for just a moment longer, for I have come into possession as a small donation from one Charlie Coleman Industries. I will have a link down below where you can check out their Facebook page, where you can buy anything from them when it comes to like modded or vintage or anything in between blasters. They have quite a large collection and very good reviews on Facebook, I might add. So they kindly donated this to me, and I do appreciate it because I didn't have it, and when I don't have a blaster, it's way easier when somebody donates it to me so I can do a video on it and give them a shout out and everybody is happy. This is somewhat of a rare blaster, but it does look somewhat familiar as well. It's very similar. In fact, this came out several years before this. Dated back to, I believe, 1998, 1999. I don't exactly know off the top of my head because the thing doesn't have any markings on it whatsoever. It's almost like it's completely fake, but it is not. It is a real blaster, and it is actually apparently somewhat rare. But what you're looking at is the vintage NERF Triple Torch, called a torch because I guess it kind of looks like a torch, like you would flambe something, or triple because, well, it shoots a wide variety of ammo types. This is where things start to get a little bit interesting, because this blaster doesn't shoot just your regular old darts, which of course it takes just fine. And spoiler, you might have thought this was a pump. I did too. It's not, it's a Springer blaster. Very, very interesting. So before I even get past this point, you might be thinking, oh, well, can it take a K26? And yeah, likely it could. This is actually a spring-tensioned trigger right there. You can see the catch at the bottom of this if you look really carefully. And of course, all you're doing, there's a lever right here. That's literally all you do. There's just a lever with spring tension. When you pull it down, it catches in this rod. When you press that, it lifts it up, and the thing comes in, and then it releases power, and then air goes into here, and things come out the barrel. However, this thing looks like it's a nightmare to take apart. And I say that with no hyperbole. You have to remove this orange thing up here, which is a dart holder, which would be painful in and of itself, but the barrel is most likely solvent welded on, and you'd have to remove that as well, and I don't see a way you could possibly do that without destroying it. So I really don't know if you could just take out these 4 screws and open it up enough to actually modify it, or you would have to do something even crazier. But yeah, it probably could, but it's probably a pain in the butt. However, it shoots darts. It also shoots the old school Mega darts, as you would think, because it's an old school Mega blaster. Somewhat interesting. So we've got 2 completely different ammo type right here. Then it shoots perfectly fine, which begs the question why NERF didn't use these barrels in pretty much everything for the next couple of years after they designed this blaster, because this is one of the few blasters I know of that even do something like that. And I say one of the few because I don't know of any others off the top of my head. However, this one doesn't, so I assume there's probably more. Regardless, there's also another way, because the barrel looks kind of weird, and that's because it can shoot arrows, missiles, rockets. That's freaking cool, man! I don't know what else you want from me. That's basically the end of the video right there, except for I still have to fill out a little more time to explain some of the other features of this blaster. But that is something that is crazy, crazy cool. And, well, now I want to mod it, because obviously you'd want to mod it, because it's spring-powered and it shoots missiles and stuff like that, and it's relatively compact. It does look goofy as sin, because look at it, it barely even fits in a hand. I mean, it has this part right here to make it look like you're supposed to grab it, but it has all this down here and all this, it's all over the place. It's really, really annoying. But it does hold a Mega Dart, normal darts, and this is where it would hold missiles. And I guess it kinda does. Kinda. But it's not meant to shoot these specifically. It can, but it's not meant to shoot them because it came with its own unique missile that was about 5 inches long, which is, this is the 11-inch variety, and then the Big Bad Bow and stuff came out with a 5-inch or a 7-inch arrow. This shoots a 5-inch one that had gears for fins, which is kind of weird, and this is the only blaster to ever shoot that ammo. And of course, that's probably rarer than absolutely anything. I have made some concessions. For example, how about we try shooting this thing? This is from the World Tech Warriors ballista-looking thing. Put that on there, and it shoots it pretty darn well. Does it hold it? Not really. I guess you could if you wanted to just destroy the thing. And of course, the question is, does it shoot these? And the answer may shock you. It does. Now, obviously it doesn't shoot them all that well. It does shoot them, but it just doesn't have the power. But judging by the size of this grip and stuff like that, it is possible, especially the size of this plunger, like, you look at it, it's freaking huge. It could possibly take a lot more power. It might have a gigantic plunger tube inside of it, capable of producing a lot more power, capable of being a Springer tiny compact missile shooter that could shoot virtually any dart out of it. Now, it can't shoot Boomco or anything like that, and if you tried to make it shoot Boomco, you'd destroy it from shooting this kind of stuff, so maybe not the best idea, but it shoots normal darts exceptionally well. Really good, in fact, for a blaster of this era. I was pleasantly surprised. This is almost usable in a war. It's not an awful blaster by any means. It actually has a punch. Now, when you scale up to something like the Mega Darts, it gets slightly less range, but it still works. That gets about the range that you would expect. When you get to the arrows and the missiles, they kind of work. The giant missiles, the ones that I used for the bow and arrow, do not work whatsoever. They pop off, but that's about it. The Demolisher rockets kind of shoot, and the little ballista missiles actually shoot the best, so that's kind of the ones I like the most out of this thing. It's not terrible, it's usable. I wish it shot a little bit better, and I was really, really surprised that this thing shot using spring power, because I have a blaster very similar to this. In fact, there's a couple of blasters that are very similar to this that use an air pump on the bottom, and that's what I thought it would be. But it's not, which is kind of cool. Now, if you want to find one of these things yourself, you're relegated to checking thrift stores, and most likely anybody sees something like this in a thrift store, they'll probably pick it up. So you need to probably look on eBay and stuff like that, but they're still prohibitively expensive. But are they worth getting? If this thing is moddable, which I kind of don't want to try to find out because it is in nearly immaculate condition. It's a little bit dirty, I can clean that up, but it has all the stickers on it, there's no broken plastic, it has the actual, missile holders and stuff on the side of it. It looks really good. I don't want to try to ruin it to mod it, but if you could mod it, and since this trigger is under spring tension, the catch should be relatively beefy, and again, pulling this back, you can see just how big that catch is, how deep the groove goes. It could probably take a hefty spring and do some pretty decent potential in it, at least better than a normal jolt, I would say. And it has no air restrictor in it, which is really cool. Obviously, it can't have an air restrictor in it, because then you wouldn't be able to fire all these different types of ammo. So, yeah, it does have a little bit of potential there, but unless you find one that's already kind of messed up, it might not be worth doing. I don't know how many of you actually have this blaster out there, because as far as I can tell, there isn't a whole lot of it on actual YouTube itself, except from some of the usual sources and some not so usual, but they all wind up to barely any views whatsoever, and I guess this thing is relatively unknown because I had never heard of it. And if you look at the blaster itself, there's no markings on it whatsoever to tell you this is in fact called the Triple Torch, or even what year it's made from, so that makes it even more difficult to figure out what this thing actually is. It is, however, very interesting, very cool, and the bottom of the plunger thing is completely hollow and it's teethed, so you could totally take a core out of a pumpkin with it if you wanted to, although I don't know why you'd want to do that, but whatever, it does it. That is a Jolt reskin, or Jolt reshell, that came far before the Jolt that was way better than a Jolt. It freaking shoots everything. See, I don't know what else you'd want from a blaster. This is one of the coolest things I own, and I really hope I can do something with it without destroying the darn thing. But let me know what you think about the vintage NERF Triple Torch down in the comment section below, and if you have one, and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm Walcom S7's Hands, thank you very much for watching this video, and of course, I really hope to see you in an entirely different one.